I mean, in general, you know, I love watching movies and shows set in very specific workplaces that are filled with workplace jargon. But I'm curious whether or not other actors that you're working with expect you to speak their language in a way. You know, is there like a way in which you guys communicate with actors that's different than, say, the way like any other director would, who hadn't maybe been an actor before, who maybe is coming from a much more technical side of things, or is only a writer and doesn't really think about things like that?
Secret handshake.
What's that? Yeah, the secret handshake. Do you guys have the Masonic? Yeah.
I mean, I'll speak for myself. I'm a mess inside here. So I'm a pretty easy lay when it comes to being encouraged and being made to feel good, you know, and that is what yields something that I end up being proud to see, something that I think is pretty decent work. Like, I'm garbage when I'm really nervous, and so I take that to when I'm directing. You know, it's we all do our best when we're relaxed and when we're feeling good, and part of directing is acting, and that is why actors make decent directors. Not only do you understand what an actor needs, but you kind of, you know, we're professional liars as actors. So, you know, like to you know, one of the real easy tricks is like to go up and tell, if you want an actor to do something, compliment them on having just done it, and you want them to do a little bit more of it, you know? And they're not gonna say that, I didn't do that. They're gonna be like, you want more of that? Yeah, I'll do that, you know? And so you just gotta kind of think, well, what's the positive way to say this as opposed to stop doing that, like that's gonna make them nervous.
It's Inception. You're just basically...
Compliment them on having done the opposite thing that they just did. You know, it's just stuff like, you know, we're idiots, you know, we're not bright.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
Except Jodie. Jodie's bright. We know Jodie's bright.
It is a level of trust. I think, you know, you're always looking as an actor, you're always looking, after you've finished a take or after you tried something, you're looking at that director's face to say, and what are you thinking? You know, you're looking for that, for somebody to give you that sort of feedback, and you want to trust that person. I always think of it as a parent, and somebody who's, you know, excited for you and is, you know, who's laughing when you're laughing, who's sort of inside your face in a way, but who's strong enough to be able to direct you so that you're not on your own flailing. So, and I think that inspires confidence in actors, and that's what they're looking for. I think they're looking to be confident and not self-conscious, because it's an incredibly self-conscious thing to do, to stand around, you know, with your clothes off in front of 75 people and, you know, flail your arms around. It's not a natural thing to do unless somebody makes you feel it's natural.
Just described how I'm feeling right now, so that's great. You know, I wanted to ask you a little bit specifically about working with Rosemary on Archangel, because
she was so great in that.
She's phenomenal.
She was in the middle of the street flailing her arms around like that. Must have been really exposing for her.
First shot, first day of shooting.
Was it really?
Oh wow,
that's a bad AD. That's a bad schedule right there.
You both made pieces of art that are about the lengths people will go to protect their family, even if that sometimes means they wind up endangering their families anyway. I mean, they both are juggling tone a lot. You have this lovely portrait of a family relationship that then gets kind of corrupted by that love. How do you go about communicating what you want from behind the camera to what your actors are doing in front of it, in terms of, like, you have an idea of what you want to see at the end, but you've got this incredibly emotional material, I'm sure, for everybody involved on the set?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the secret handshake, you know, sort of how do you direct people into... Number one, I think you don't start with result. You know, you don't start with saying, I want you to get to B. I think you hopefully it's about being inside the experience. And that really is, that's what directors are able to do, I think, is they're able to sort of climb inside the faces of their actors and feel what they're feeling. And that's really what you're looking for. That's who I am as an actor. I don't know if you have this experience, Justin, but sometimes I will be looking, I never storyboard really very rarely, because I'm usually on the other side of the camera, so I see the movie from the other side of the camera. I see this actor from this actor's point of view, and then I see that actor from that actor's point of view, so that every all the technicianship really comes from emotion and comes from the actor's emotions about what's real and what isn't real. For me, it's very simple. I always ask that question, is it real or is it not? What is more real? What is more true? And I don't think it has to be more complicated than that.
One of my favorite things about Ozark is the ensemble. And you have, in the piece of writing, obviously, these people who are coming from these disparate parts of the country or the world, and different backgrounds, but they all kind of are singing from the same hymn book in terms of the tone that winds up on screen. As someone who was obviously one of the creative minds behind the show, what was it like working with an ensemble and communicating that to so many different actors who wound up being so wonderful in the show?
Well, the thing that attracted me to the show was how specific the tone was of the scripts. The first two scripts were written, and reading those, it seemed to be something that was very unsettling and very raw, and I knew that there would be obviously a visual component to that, a musical component of that, more of like a sonic component of that, and then obviously the cast needed to all have a shared sensibility of what it is when we are communicating kind of human. What is, Laura Linney is somebody that you never catch acting. She's somebody who she doesn't press. If you're not seeing it, then you're on the wrong lens. You got to get in there. Like, she's never throwing to the back row. So it was important to cast a bunch of people that could hit that same ball back with her, and that was kind of my job as someone who was directing the first two and the last two, and overseeing the whole thing as the EP, is to try to keep a bunch of shared sensibilities throughout all the departments. The acting just being one of them.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, because you've referred to Ozark as this 600-page movie in some ways, and I don't know in what order in which you shot this stuff, but you did do the first two, you did do the last two. Was there something that you wish you knew at the beginning of the process that you would learn by the end of the process in working on Ozark?
I mean, just a confirmation of my instinct that everybody was just so good at what they did. Not that I doubted it, but even just the few moments where you're just naturally unsure about, like, this feels so comfortable. Am I missing something? Like, everybody can't really be done with this setup now. Like, is it? And then you'd look at the monitor, and it's like, yeah, that looks beautiful. And the camera move, like the dolly is moving right and it landing on that market. Yeah, let's go, let's shoot. And by the last two, there was never any doubt. And you would yield probably an extra half hour, an hour of work every day, because you're not double checking, triple checking, and doing one more second team rehearsal. You can go in there, you can shoot right away, and maybe that first take, second take is going to really be usable.
Just to have a little fan moment for Jason, I have to say, I think the thing that I love the most about Ozark, like Breaking Bad and like some of my favorite stuff, is that the intention is so clear from the first moment of filming. That it isn't a show that has sort of found itself as three episodes in, that there was so much going on that was underneath the covers that you were trying to figure out, that then made sense, that every piece somehow made sense, and it made sense from an emotional place throughout the season. I just love the show so much. It's so great.
Yeah, that's the best part, because when you come across something where you can tell that the people know what they want and know what they're doing, it doesn't matter if it's Sicario or Ladybird. You're just like, oh yeah, that's exactly what you guys wanted. Jodie,
everything is meaningful, and it's one of the things that we talk about features in television, and it is the golden age of television right now. But what the best television can do is it pulls from the beauty of features is that everything is meaningful. So every lens choice, every piece of casting, every time somebody puts a piece of sugar in their tea, every spoon, there's a reason that that's there. And that hasn't always been true in television. In television, sometimes it's like, we're just going to put a bunch of people in a room, and it's going to be funny and circular, and we're going to do that week after week. It's going to be more episodic. But I think television has really come to understand the beauty of building narrative structure And there are a few, whether it's Sopranos or Ozark or Breaking Bad, there are a few shows that really do that really, really well.
Well, and not to kiss the ass of Netflix, although they deserve it, because they have a reputation that is well deserved. But just the format of being able to give all the episodes you can predict, assume, hope, expect perhaps that people are going to bite off 3 or 4 episodes at a time, and that informs the way in which you write something. It informs the way in which you shoot something. Do I really need to have that person say that line of exposition in a close-up? Or can I have it kind of play off camera? Because we did say it in the last episode, and if the person just watched that last episode, they're going to see this close-up on this, and they're going to be like, "Guy, I got it." Come on. And you don't want that ding against you. Whereas if every episode was released once a week, you would be obligated to, and as an audience member, you would appreciate the fact that you've been refreshed on that. So it is much more, to Jodie's point, much more of a feature type of approach, both in writing and in shooting and in editing, where you are giving the audience the benefit of the doubt that they are engaged. They have made an appointment to see this and to gobble up a larger chunk of it. And it allows you to be more subtle, and Jodie's been killing it in subtlety for a lot longer than I have. And if that's what makes you proud about the work that you do, then to do it on a platform like that rewards that kind of measured execution, then we could not be luckier than to be working with them.
Absolutely. Jodie, you had this unique job where you were working on a show that in some ways has no rules. I mean, I suppose other than humanity is screwed, that's the only thing you have to sort of get across. But I wondered if your relationship to Black Mirror has changed now that you've made one. Like when you watch them now, do you say like, no, and here's the part where humanity falls apart? Or is it any different as a viewer now that you've participated in this?
Well, I'm a huge fan of the show, and especially of the anthology idea. I think the anthology is where it's at. This idea that you're going to tune into a show because of the ideas that it brings about, but you're going to go into a different genre every time, a different cast, a different place. I mean, I love that about Black Mirror. I think it's really successful. I'm really here representing the other filmmakers too. There's 5 other filmmakers, but they're all in England. So, I get sent over here to do the Los Angeles stuff. I love it that each one of the episodes is so different. And my episode this season is the most grounded and the most subtle, and probably the least liked by all the Black Mirror fans, I think, because it has a quieter tone, and Black Mirror allows you to do that, which is to say, we will make a horror film, but then we're also going to make one that's like Star Trek, like a Star Trek ripoff, and which is so fun, USS Callister, and then to have one that really feels a little bit like an Ingmar Bergman movie, which is really what I was hoping for.
Yeah, I was wondering, it is an Ingmar Bergman movie, but it has this aspect of, I imagine, pretty significant post-production work and visual effects with some of the stuff going on in there. Was it an extensive visual effects thing, or was a lot of it practical, or was it?
No, there wasn't that much. I'm probably the least of all the Black Mirrors, actually.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask, because I thought I read where Rosemary was like, I'm acting against.
Oh, yes. Well, that's how Rosemary felt.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yes.
That's how she felt, because she had to hold that thing and look at it as if there was something there, and there was nothing there.
Right.
But I had just come from directing Money Monster with George Clooney and Julia Roberts, and that entire film was nothing but screens, and none of the screens were there. So all the screens were green screen. So yeah, that was way more technical and a lot more after the fact CG stuff.
But that was all an elaborate setup to ask. It's essentially an influences question, but I was wondering if there was any stuff that you would borrow from, whether it was Contact or Panagram, where it was working on with stuff where you had to put actors in a very human place, but maybe had some technical fireworks going on behind the scene.
Well, nowadays, you'll see everything that you see in the movies nowadays. You won't even realize where there's CG and where there's digital technology. You have no idea. And the stuff that we used to take when on my first film I directed, I spent a week planning the one film that had opticals, which is what we called them then, and I wasn't allowed to move the camera, and I had a black thing, I had a big huge camera that made a bunch of noise so there couldn't be any sound. Nowadays you can do that on your iPhone. So the world has changed so much, and you know this when you're shooting, something will happen and you'll just be like, oh, we'll just take that out later. So we're always dealing with digital technology, and if you've been an actor for any length of time, I think that becomes quite comfortable, and you realize that the best digital technology is the stuff that looks the most real. So if you can do as much as possible and have it be as real as possible, and then you're better off.